The position of wide receiver in the NFL has changed drastically over the last few decades. And in the 1990s, we saw wide receivers such as Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin, Tim Brown, Isaac Bruce, all come in and dominate, as well as a few other receivers. But heading into the late 90s, we saw a brand new group of young talent emerge with players such as Hines Ward, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and Marvin Harrison. But in every draft, there's always a diamond in the rough, and that's exactly what happened in the 1999 NFL Draft, when in the fourth round, with pick number 105, the Baltimore Ravens selected Louisiana's very own Brandon Stokley at wide receiver. Brandon Stokley was born in Blacksburg, Virginia on June 23rd, 1976, and it didn't take long before football came into his life, as his father Nelson Stokley played college football at LSU and became the head coach of the Louisiana-Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns when Brandon was only 10 years old. His father would be the coach for that team for over a decade, and by the time Brandon got into college, he ended up playing wide receiver under his father for all 4 seasons that he played there. In his 4 years at Louisiana and Lafayette, not only did Brandon have his father to coach him, but he also had NFL talent with him as well, as he was wide receiver and his quarterback was Jake Delhomme, a future quarterback for the Carolina Panthers mostly that would make a Super Bowl in 2003. In his 4 years in college, he actually was a pretty good stud. Stokley would have 3 1,000-yard seasons and was the first player in NCAA Division-I football history to average 100 yards per game over a 4-year career. He's also the all-time Lafayette leader in passes caught at 241 in his 4 years, at reception yardage at 3,702, and all-time leader in touchdown catches with 25. Stokley would go onto the combine, and he was actually pretty good. Here are his stats up on the screen now. He was pretty consistent all around, even though he was under 200 pounds. And that allowed him to have good expectations heading into the draft that he entered himself in, and was eventually drafted in the fourth round by the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens were still a newly established team. They came in 1996 after the Cleveland Browns relocation controversy, and the Ravens early on were centered on defense, so they wanted to get some wide receiver talent. The Ravens would put Stokley in for their 1999 season opener against the Rams, and we would come to know now that this would actually be the debut for starting quarterback Kurt Warner, one of the best in NFL history, and the birth of the greatest show on turf. And while they were stealing the show, the Ravens were put in the back, basically forgotten, and Stokley made most of his 5 targets, which included a deep shot in the end zone early on in the game, but he made up for it at the end of the third quarter.
Now Mitchell again. Here comes the blitz. Goes for Stokley. Touchdown! The rookie hauled it in 28 yards, and the Ravens are back in business.
Unfortunately for Stokley, the Ravens would continue to be a defensive-based team, and Stokley wouldn't be put in another game until Week 6 against the Kansas City Chiefs, where in 3 targets he failed to haul in any of them, and they got blown out 35-8. And then in that game as well, he also got injured and was placed on IR for the rest of the season. I couldn't find out what his injury was anywhere, so I guess that's a mystery unless somebody else can find it. But his 1999 rookie season saw in 2 games, he had 1 catch for 28 yards in out of 8 targets for a touchdown. The Baltimore Ravens would continue to take a defensive approach into the 2000 season, encouraging their players to play a more physical style of football, and Brandon Stokley did that as well. Unfortunately for him, it was looking like he was going to become another forgotten player, as he did not play in the opening not just 1, not just 2, but in the opening 9 games, Stokley ceased to exist. You did not find him anywhere on the field. Tony Banks was the quarterback, and he wasn't doing too hot. as even though the team had a good amount of wins and was in the playoff conversation, they had only scored more than 16 points in 2 games. And in one of those games, the defense absolutely carried them, winning 37-0 in week 4 against the Bengals, looking like Super Bowl 59 up in there. Stokley was looking like he was just going to disappear. But everything changed when the front office decided to make a change at the position of quarterback. Once Dilfer stepped in at quarterback, the offense started to gel together and be a good unit. As even though Travis Taylor was drafted by the Ravens in the first round of the 2000 draft as a wide receiver, Stokley and Trent Dilfer formed a really good connection that even though Stokley didn't get many targets, he made with what he could do and caught most of those passes. For example, in week 14 against the Chargers, Stokley reeled in all 4 catches, but not only that, he caught 3 of them on third downs. In fact, most of his catches that year were on third downs and became an elite third down receiver, especially in the slot. And in the 7 regular season games that he played in 2000, he had 11 catches on 17 targets for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns, including one in his first game that he played that season on the sole catch that he got that day against the Bengals.
Defense puts them in business. Trent Dilfer now starting for Tony Banks. Pay attention. Brandon Stokley. Oh my goodness! It's a touchdown for Baltimore!
Dilfer and Stokley and all the others were able to lead the Ravens to a 12-4 record and send them to the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. The Ravens would go on to steamroll their opponents in the playoffs, and the wild card Stokley wasn't used really the entire game as he never got a single target as they beat Denver 21-3. In the divisional round, Stokley did catch one of his 2 targets for 8 yards, but it wouldn't be until the AFC title game that he would be a really strong asset.
A week ago. Dilfer throws far side, complete to Brandon Stokley. Stokley diving for first down yardage. Doesn't appear to have gotten there. Anthony Dorsett and Torrey James.
Pay attention to him when he talks.
Dilfer, quick drop, quick pass, complete Stokley. Stokley inside the 45 and a first down to about the 42-yard line of the Oakland Raiders.
You know, we talked about early in the game, Priest Holmes, he was going to be a big part of the offense. I haven't seen that today. And the other guy, Brian Billick, says, look for Brandon Stokley, number 80. We're going to get him involved. And the one thing this guy can do when you watch him warm up or watch him in games, he is extremely fast going down the field.
Clock down to 1.
Dilfer and Stokley had a really strong connection in the AFC Championship game, as even though Stokley was only targeted 4 times, he reeled in 3 of them for 31 yards, including 2 of them on third downs, another crucial point to be made as the Ravens cruised to a strong 16-3 win over the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders just had bad luck in this time, and then they were just horrible after that. So poor Raiders, man. But with that win, the Ravens moved on to their first ever Super Bowl. Super Bowl 35 was looked to be a great one between 2 powerhouses on both offense and defense. The Giants only lost 1 of their last 7 games, and the Ravens, of course, having one of the best defenses of all time. But after such a great Super Bowl the year prior, it became apparent within the first 2 plays that this was going to be a long game.
The best defense in football and extremely confident about the Giants' game plan.
Tiki Barber, Greg Camella in the backfield. First down from the 21-yard line. Movement up front. Penalty markers fly on both sides of the field. Jamie Sharper has a loose ball, but that won't count. A little tension on the opening snap.
Well, the one thing you always see the Ravens early in the game, they try to anticipate the snap count to try to get off to a good start, and it looked like they jumped early that time.
The beginning was all defense, as the Giants and the Ravens could never get past midfield and punted on every single drive, and the closest anyone got to cracking midfield was when the Ravens got to their own 49-yard line. But throughout the first quarter, it was all defense, and it wouldn't be until the 7-minute mark that they finally struck gold.
Dilfer throws deep. Brandon Stokley inside the 10 to the end zone. Touchdown.
There's the name, Greg, we expected to hear a couple of weeks ago. Brandon Stokley, probably the fastest player on the field tonight. Him and Ron Dixon for the Giants. But watch Stokley going against Jason Sehorn. Just a little stutter step. Then wow, what a throw by Trent Dilfer. Right in stride. Stokley makes an easy catch.
38 yards, the longest reception of Stokley's 2-year career. The extra point is up, and it is good. Trent Dilfer's 38-yard touchdown pass caps a 41-yard drive. That is the longest touchdown drive allowed by the New York Giants in this postseason.
This touchdown opened up the floodgates to this slugfest, as this game was just defensive, just absolute brawling. There were so many bad plays, and outside of Qadri Ismail's 47-yard catch right before the end of the first half, the Giants struggled to keep pace with the Ravens, and eventually the Ravens had such a big lead that it became apparent by the end of the third quarter that there was no way the Giants were catching up. And even though Stokley did get 2 more catches in the game was just overall a forgotten memory, and I'll just go through some of those pretty bad plays.
Dilfer hit and dropped at the 33-yard line. Michael Strahan, Cornelius Griffin closed on the quarterback. Here's Tony Banks on the sideline. Collins pulls it down and goes down. Collins waited, and then time ran out. Michael McCrary, 2nd and 18. Collins dropped, throws, intercepted. Kim Herring stepped in front of the receiver and took it away. The NFL, and he is the Pro Bowl kicker coming from the AFC. This one from 41 yards out is no good.
Around a lot of times because they can see the big hits coming.
Picked off. Dwayne Stark's going to take it to the end zone for the touchdown.
Because nothing bad can happen to him, and Kerry Collins was fooled by the coverage.
Those 4 interceptions tie a Super Bowl record held by several quarterbacks. Drew Bledsoe, the last to throw 4 interceptions in a Super Bowl game. Ron Dixon inside the 5-yard line. Breaks through the 30, the 40. He's gone. Ron Dixon to the 10, the 5, touchdown. Going to be short. From the 17 is Jermaine Lewis, and Lewis with room to run. Breaks to the outside, to the 45, the 50, down the sideline, and he's going to go! Yard line. Pulls it down, rolls, throws, underthrows Tiki Barber, who is then undercut on the far side of the field. It's incomplete, 2nd and 10.
Well, the one thing you always look at, and we talk about so many things in the NFL now about why teams winning and, what's the new thing, they're throwing the football, but boy, it's amazing how it always comes back to the big and the strong. And so far in this game, the Ravens have been bigger and they're stronger, and they basically have overpowered the New York Giants.
They have been the biggest and the strongest all season long. Collins lost the football. It's on the ground inside the 5-yard line. And the officials say the Giants have recovered. 2nd and 6. Lost the football.
Hey!
And Dilfer picked it up.
He either dances.
Keith Hamilton in on Priest Holmes.
He either dances.
While Super Bowl 35 did not go the way most fans anticipated, the Giants did not have a chance the entire game, and overall, the offensive game for both teams wasn't that great. Brandon Stokley was the best receiver on the Ravens, getting 3 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown out of his 6 targets, and was actually the best receiver on both teams because the highest amount of yards that any receiver on the Giants got was 30, and that was Ike Hilliard with 3 catches on 11 targets. After this performance, Stokley was put as a starting receiver for the 2001 season, and the Ravens actually did alright as a whole, but with Trent Dilfer gone after just one season and a rotation of starting quarterbacks on the Ravens in 2001, Stokley struggled. Even though he played in all 16 games, he only caught 24 passes for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2002, he looked to improve, but he only managed to play in 8 games with 24 catches again and only 357 yards with 2 total touchdowns. And after the 8th game of the season, he was put on IR for the rest of the year and flourished as a third down receiver, but couldn't really make the plays and had yet to break the 100-yard barrier in any given game. But that would all change after 2002 when the team that ended up drafting him would put him for free agency heading into the 2003 season. As free agency loomed around, people were wondering if anyone was going to take a chance on Brandon Stokley and whether his NFL career was over or not. He hadn't really flourished too much, and he was a third down receiver, but still hadn't made too many big plays and hadn't gotten many yards in any receiving category over his 4 years in Baltimore. But entering 2003, one team was about to build a powerhouse, and they needed someone to help them build their legendary wide receiver lineup. But that's a whole nother story altogether.